Hello, my friends. Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. This is Jennifer. Let's start right off the top by welcoming Jules home. She is back from Japan, where she accompanied her kiddo to study abroad. So Jules' daughter is now in Japan studying abroad, and you guys, there is a link in the description for the fundraiser to help her with this massive endeavor. So welcome back, Jules. I cannot wait to see your show and tell. I also want to thank you guys for all the love from the last two videos I've posted. I got a lot of love from the Raggedy rescue, where I did a Good Omens themed makeover, and I do have that process video coming out Friday. So if you are curious about how I turned the two thrift store dolls into Aziraphale and Crowley, this will be your chance to see that. I had a weird week last week. There were a lot of really good things and a lot of really stressful things. So we're gonna focus on the good things this week. Right off the top, I got to see Hamilton on Saturday. I had only ever seen it on the stage recorded version on Disney Plus. So watching it in real life was amazing. It's such a just powerful, impactful, and phenomenal story. And also just like, I don't know. They need to warn you though, because I did not have enough tissues. So if you get the chance to see the Broadway Across America or on Broadway or the West End or wherever, definitely go see Hamilton. The other couple of things I got up to were some embroidery and a little tiny bit of sewing. So let's talk about the embroidery first. I decided I wanted to machine embroider the details on this Indiana Jones block. This is Holly Urbane's pattern. You can find it for free on Vandermeer Stitches. I did do some minor tweaks to the bottle to make it look a little more like a whiskey bottle and a little less like a wine bottle. And that was my husband's request. So I played with the design a lot. I had several iterations. And then instead of stitching directly on this block, I decided I wanted to test it first on some scrap muslin. And so I pulled out my scrap muslin, which I have tons of just floating around, because every time I see it at Austin Creative Reuse, I get some because it is infinitely useful for all kinds of things. But anyway, so I pulled out one of my scraps and I traced the block, and here is my first test. And you can see that on my first test, the label actually goes into the headpiece. So that was just there. That was wrong. That didn't work. So I made myself a little note that says move left. The move left is for the chain. The chain was a little too far to the right. What I actually ended up doing was splitting the two designs and stitching them out totally separately, which worked way better. So here's my second try. I removed some of the border that went around the label, but I didn't remove enough. So this lined up really nicely. And then this just had too much border. So I removed the border. Then I took a chance and I went ahead and stitched it on the block. And guys, I'm in love with it. So this is actually based on a whiskey bottle from the 1940s. And it's much simplified because there's a lot more information on the label, but obviously I couldn't get it all in there. But I'm really happy. I think it reads really well, and I am in love with the chain. I love how the chain worked out. I got it just where I wanted to get it. And that is all of the main embroidery that is not titles. So speaking of titles, I will be back to doing titles this week because I sat down with my husband this weekend and we brainstormed all the rest of the titles. Everything else that had a blank now has a title that is designated. And this week I am going to start getting all of those designed in my Embrilliant software so that I can start finishing his rows. All the blocks are made. All of the main embroidery, like the unusual embroidery, is all done. And now it is time to finish the titles. So that should be next week's video. So you may have noticed these cute little blocks over here. I had a sew date on Friday with a friend, which I haven't done in a really long time, guys. And I feel like I say that every time I have a sew date, but I haven't done it in a long time. And I didn't have a portable project because the only thing that I'm working on now that the Raggedy project is done is the bookcase quilt, and everything I have left requires my embroidery machine, which is decidedly not portable. So I grabbed my scrap bin, dumped it in an IKEA bag, and just took it to my friend's house with my sewing stuff. And I had an idea when I was actually chatting with Jules while she was in Tokyo, and it just occurred to me, like, I was like, how big were your Scrappy one color blocks you've been making at your social event that you do at Hip Stitch, because she is the creator and one of the hosts of the social event that they do once a month at Hip Stitch, which if you're in Albuquerque, you guys should check that out. I will put a link in the description. Scrappy Sewcial is what it's called. And so she told me, and I was like, well, hers are 9.5. And I was like, I have an 8.5-inch square. So I'm just going to take my 8.5-inch square because that's perfect, because I don't have a 9.5-inch square. And that's what I did. We only sewed for a couple of hours, and this is a couple of hours worth of sewing. I started with red, and I didn't have a ton of red, but I did what I could, and it's fun. It's an improv block. A couple of decades ago, when I first started quilting, I knew an instructor who called these crumb blocks, and that is in my head. That's what I've always called them, as crumb blocks. I know a lot of people call them improv blocks now, but they will always be crumb blocks inside of my head. And I had such a hard time finding enough red that I decided to pick the thing that looked the most obvious, that I had the most of, and it was this color. A lot of these fabrics, both the red fabrics and the blue fabrics, were in my Talk to Me Tuesday quilt. And I think the lemon might be left over from making tiny baskets, but it also might be left over from when I made little bags for all the Talk to Me Tuesdayers when we went to Quilt Fest together in 2022. So it's one of the two, but that's why I love scraps, because they give you little memories of projects past. I have no idea if I will make any more of these blocks. This was kind of a one-off. I don't have a project planned, and my goal for this year is to finish my quilts. I have quilts that need quilting. I have this quilt that needs finishing, and I'm not really wanting to start a new project right now. I want to finish some projects. So I'm going to put these aside, and then maybe if I have another sew day, I'll make some more. And then if I don't, maybe they'll just become a little fabric basket. I think I'm going to leave it there for today, guys. Be sure and check out my Raggedy Rescue on Friday if that's something you're interested in. It's the process video for the Good Omens makeover. And also check out my new channel, Backyard Jen. I am posting lots of shorts, mostly. I have a couple long videos, but mostly shorts for my bird feeder cameras and for my flowers and just different things around my yard. And I will probably add some other nature in here and there as I have the chance, but it's just been a fun little diversion, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll stop talking now. Have a wonderful week. Have a crafty week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.